My guest today was a photojournalist in the Air Force who began his foray in the industry as Tyler Perry's studio assistant in Atlanta before moving on to the Los Angeles office of Canadian powerhouse studio E1. Now, 4 years ago, you departed to build an e-commerce business, and all the while, you've gotten to make about a film a year that you have also acted in and co-produced. If that isn't impressive and out-of-the-box thinking, I don't know what is. Please welcome Tarkan Dospil.
What's up, Adam, right?
What's up, man? Thank you for doing this.
No problem.
So I want to start with a little icebreaker. There's this trailer that just came out with David Arquette about wrestling that I feel like we just have to watch together and dive into, and then we'll get into the interview. Sound good?
Just because we should just have to watch this trailer?
Just because,
Okay.
It's a party.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
Legends of Wrestling, one of the biggest events of the year, 10,000 fans in attendance as Ken Anderson takes on David Arquette.
So I've heard about this.
David Arquette as the wrestler sucks. I don't give a shit about David Arquette.
I had no idea he had such a wrestling presence.
Oh my gosh, I already love it.
An untrained Hollywood actor wins a prestigious championship.
His involvement in wrestling really hurt his career.
He looks like a really skinny, rowdy Roddy Piper.
They want to clear my name and, through the process, honor wrestling.
This ain't the movie.
It's cool because it looks like he's like he knew he wasn't taken seriously, and he's still not going to be taken seriously, but he just wants to be taken seriously.
I think David Arquette is at his prime, which sounds really weird to say about David Arquette, but he looks like he's being silly and having fun.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in.
I'm in.
That looks awesome.
No question asked.
Is this something we're gonna watch soon?
I hope so. We should as soon as we can. All right. So I want to talk about real quick. We watched the trailer. We're both in. What kind of films sculpted you growing up? What made you want to enter the business to begin with?
Not David Arquette films.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm certain of that.
But that trailer looks awesome. Mostly, I got into all of this industry film stuff via acting. Because I was really into acting.
Which I didn't know.
Yeah. Oh, I had to surprise you with some stuff.
Yeah.
So I went to like an advanced like magnet art school for theater and all this stuff. I was like heavily involved in the theater arts, and so the core of my interest was I'm like kind of a fanboy. It was like Spielberg films and that whole genre of like young comedies and young action. And
what hooked you? What was the first Spielberg film that hooked you?
Goonies.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
Great film.
Yep. And then James Cameron, like Aliens, Terminator 2. I mean, that Star Wars, like all the fanboy movies that define now like our adult lives, our generation that's now adults. That was what got me into everything. And then I was also just kind of like somewhat of an extroverted kid, and I really enjoyed theater, and I just enjoyed the whole creative process of it. So that's what got me into everything. And those were the films that largely shaped what I was into and my interests until I hit college, when I became like the artsy indie guy. And that's when Tarantino and all that stuff was like super popular, and I got into indie film. And
you were walking around campus wearing a beanie, or what did that mean?
Yeah, not so much a beanie, but like indie film was. I was wearing corduroy pants though. Yeah,
hipster.
It wasn't
life.
beanie. Yeah, it was hipster life of the early 2000s. But yeah, I got into indie film, and that obviously changed my perspective. It's all of a sudden, people are doing these really cool. It's basically like they're doing stage plays and they're filming them. Tarantino Reservoir Dogs is basically like a violent stage play filmed. So yeah, that's basically what got into it. And like I said, I'd always had this passion for it, and just my tastes evolved over time.
Okay. So could you tell me, I know we've talked about Spielberg and Cameron, but was there a film that was just so magical for you?
I'm going to really, I don't want to say the wrong word. I'm going to really make myself look like a wussy here.
Please.
But
I would hope for nothing less.
The film that hit me the hardest emotionally with film, and you're gonna like crack up here, and made me go, man, if I have the ability to impact an audience the way this film has impacted audiences, was Titanic.
Oh, that's not silly. I love that film.
I mean, it's kind of cheesy when you talk about it now, but that movie was like the number one grossing movie for like 15 years, something like that, almost 20 years.
But I'll tell you this: if you watch the film today, I feel like it still has replay value.
Totally, and so the reason for that, I think, is that I feel that film captures so many of the timeless aspects of what makes film magical and connect, and what I believe is universal and timeless in films, and that I don't think will ever go away. And it hit a lot of those core timeless elements, and it affected and inspired, and just, it has a transcendent quality, emotional transcendence to it. And when a film can have that kind of emotional resonance with a viewer, that to me is when I say, yeah, that's you want to inspire and affect people.
Yeah. So I'll give Titanic props because this is not a great comparison, but the restaurant Chili's was that magical to me when I was in college, and it is no longer magical.
They both have the same
Unless
sort
report.
of a
It's
suburban appeal.
Not good now.
But I think Titanic is probably better than Chili's still.
Yeah, I'm certain. So what led to you getting into the Air Force as a photojournalist?
So I had decided that my dad was in the military, and he had said as an option, I was kind of in between college. I was trying to figure out how I wanted to continue those collegiate years, that period of my life. And my dad thought it would be a good idea. He recommended it to me. So I knew I wanted to.
Were you a problem child, or?
I was not a problem child. No.
Okay.
No,
that's like my.
Your thought of why people go to the military is
hell
because they're problem children?
Yeah.
No, I was actually quite a good kid. I was a pretty nerdy good kid. But in fact, I was so nerdy, and at the time, I guess hipster, you want to call it, that I didn't have a lot of direction. So I wasn't causing problems. I was just like, I didn't know who I was.
Okay.
Figure things out. So my dad thought it would be good to ground me.
Got it.
And said, hey, why don't you consider the military? So I said, okay, why not? So I was like, sure, why not? It seemed like an adventure, which you want to talk about adventures and living my life kind of with that sense of spirit of adventure. That was the first part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
But I knew I wanted to do something in media because I was following that media path in college. And so I just was like, okay, there were options to be a videographer, photojournalist, broadcaster. Like you can actually like be a news broadcaster.
Got it. And did you were all of you bunking together? Like you're with the soldiers, or are the photojournalists in like a artistic?
No. So the way it works is you go to boot camp and everybody's together in boot camp.
I see.
But when you go out, they send you to specific training schools for your job.
Okay.
And so, yes, I went to a training school, the Defense Information School, which is in Fort Meade, Maryland. And it was nothing but videographers, photojournalists, and we were all training. And I have to say, it's one of two life experiences that really, I say, has had the most impact on me was the military and particularly going to that broadcasting and that media school. And then obviously, like we'll talk later, but traveling abroad also was the other thing that really impacted me. But that's how I got into the military. It was a great time. I made some of the best friends of my life. Really kind of helped mature me a lot. And then
did you get your ass kicked?
No, boot camp actually is not that hard.
I was wondering if there were Full Metal Jacket vibes or.
No.
Okay.
No. I think Hollywood has a misconception.
Sensationalized.
Yeah, they sensationalize a little bit. So yeah, that was.
And how many years were you overseas as a photojournalist for the Air Force?
So I spent 3 months overseas.
Great.
But I was in the desert they call it sand camp or something like that.
Where was that?
In Qatar.
Oh wow.
In the UAE.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 3 months in a tent in the desert writing stories and doing articles
That's cool.
for like our local newsletter. Yeah, it was pretty cool, man.
That is cool. Yeah. I worked in the desert on American Ninja Warrior, but at the end of the day, we went to a cozy casino resort to go to bed, so we didn't really.
But you guys were doing way cooler stuff.
Probably.
Like I wasn't to be clear, I wasn't leaping out of planes taking pictures of tanks, which is what a lot of people think when I say I'm a photojournalist. It wins the ladies over a lot in the first day when you're like, yeah, I was a photojournalist. Like,
I don't want to.
Wow, that's cool. I don't want to talk about it, right, but it was pretty. It wasn't anything badass.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think it's badass.
Oh, cool.
So what led from that to you working at Tyler Perry as a studio assistant?
Yeah, so after I got out of the military, I started. I wanted to like then jump into the industry, like the film and TV industry. So actually started. I went back to my roots in theater, as I told myself that I wanted to spend some point in my life doing work in theater and actually doing the acting thing. So I said I didn't want to have any regrets. I wanted to at least say that I spent 1 or 2 years pursuing that. So I did. I lived in Chicago for a while, and I was working in theater, doing some on stage and some off stage stuff. And then I ended up relocating. A friend of mine who lived in Atlanta, I relocated to Atlanta because the film industry in Atlanta was slowly burgeoning there. And this is important for your student listeners. I told myself that I was not going to move to LA until I had established some relationships that were either in LA or connected to LA. I think that's super important for young people who have dreams of going to LA. If you don't know anyone in town, you're going to spend a long time just getting to know people that can help shepherd and start your career. Now that said, if you're 21 and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to hit LA and start, you can do that, and you can spend a lot of time, and you'll be young enough cultivating those relationships. But you're going to spend a long time just cultivating relationships. So for me, I didn't want to come to LA until I had some relationships. So I thought I could do that going to places like Chicago and Atlanta that were coming up in the scene, and I could be sort of maybe not a bigger fish in a small pond, but I could go to a small pond and hopefully become a big fish and then move to the big pond. So that's when I went to Atlanta, and I started hustling, man. I mean, I was working on any most independent film sets that I could, particularly ones that had crew that were doing big Hollywood productions. Okay. I tried to get into the local community, and again, it was a small pond. So it was a lot easier to meet people that were working in the industry.
And you were a hustler, I'm sure.
By hustler, I worked hard, and I was willing. Yeah, exactly. I was willing to, and I worked for free. I was working in restaurants, and I would say, listen, I'll come on your movie and I'll work for free, or just, I was doing indie films. And through that, I ended up meeting some people. I worked on some film projects done by some people that worked at Tyler Perry Studios. And I said, okay, I will do anything I can just to get on studio and start working. So there was an opportunity to basically do some volunteer work at the studio. So I started doing that, building more relationships, and then eventually was approached about being an assistant. So I can confidently say that those classic stories of, you hear about Spielberg or whatever director starting off in a closet and sneaking around and working for free and doing whatever they can to get noticed and deliver value. Yeah. That's absolutely true. And while I didn't do it in LA and on a Paramount lot, I did do it in a small indie studio.
Right. How did you get discovered by Tyler Perry? Or how did that job come about?
So I was just making myself as visible as I could, and I was taking on as many different jobs, and they were grunt kind of production office jobs and whatnot I could in the studio. And he had an office that was located kind of in the center of the building of the studio. So you had like the studio, and there's all these other buildings, and in the center was his like main big primary office. So anytime that I could, I was taking assignments like, if it would get me into that building just so I could just kind of roam around. And his assistant, his primary assistant at the time, Ozzy Aru, he wasn't the president. His primary assistant, Ozzy Aru, had heard about kind of like a few of us that were really working hard, trying to put in overtime. And he had seen me a couple times coming through the hallway. And so he kind of approached me and was like, we might have this position.
What was his vibe? What presence did he?
Actually, so a similar presence to, I think that he related to that work ethic, that like, just put in hours, do whatever you can.
So you were kinfolk to him. He resonated with what you were up to, and he was like, okay, this is...
Oh,
I get this guy. I see this
I don't want to speak for him, but I definitely sense from watching how he worked that at least what I had hoped was that he saw some similar kind of ethic there, or just the willingness to go above and beyond. So he approached me. I was fortunate enough to get the interview and get an offer, And then that was the start of it.
And was it a total grind, or what kind
Oh
of?
yeah, it was. I mean, grind is it's it's a lot of work. I mean, any assistant job
Yeah.
at any actual Hollywood like studio that's doing major indie or Hollywood productions, it's a ton of work. I mean,
Right. No, I'm fascinated because, as we both know, Tyler Perry just broke the $1 billion barrier this year. He's a billionaire now. And one of the things he said about it when interviewed is, when you own the lights, and I'm botching this quote, by the way, this is not the exact quote. When you own the lights and you own the equipment, you get a larger cut of the
100%.
profit. So what was it like? Were you working on Medea films, or what were you up to?
Yeah. So this was right after he had kind of blown up with his first couple of films, and he was starting to. I mean, he was a pretty big name.
Yeah.
And this was when he was like starting to launch, and his movies were just like knocking out the park every weekend. So yeah, it was like his older catalog of like, it was a lot of Medea movies. But I wasn't working on. I shifted from the production side to the studio side, which is like sort of like if you're an executive assistant to a studio exec, there's the studio and then there's the productions, all the film productions. So I wasn't actually doing on-set production anymore. I was now on the studio, which was what I was trying to craft my career. After I had done the Chicago and the theater and all that acting stuff, I said, okay, it's time. I love the business. I love the producing and all of that. That's where I want to start trying to grow my career. And so that's when I shifted. So I targeted, I wanted to be at the studio level. I wanted to, climb up the corporate studio rank. So yeah.
Got it. And after your tenure there, what did you end up doing?
So after Tyler Perry, I ended up deciding that it was time to move to LA. So I worked on I went back to production, worked on a Fast and Furious movie that was shooting in LA, and then kind of prepped and planned to move to LA. Now, I said earlier that I only wanted to move to LA if I had relationships. Well, by working at the studio side of Tyler Perry, I met a couple of people who were his assistants at the time. There was a few of us, and they came from William Morris, which was his agent at the time. I think it might still be.
What was it like working with those cats? Were they intimidating because they were big agent assistants, or what was that like for you?
I don't want to say intimidating. It was exciting, and it was such a learning experience. I mean, a simple term like rolling calls. We hear about that, and if you're in film school, you're hearing about that. But until someone's sitting there and be like, "We're rolling calls," it's like that. That's awesome when you're right there in it, talking with someone that has done it. And they come from William Morris, which is huge. I mean, it was
and they're
super
polished
exciting.
and they're crisp.
They're polished, and there's just precision.
Yeah.
And there's no room for error, and it's all that stuff you hear about. And you know about it.
I worked a desk for a year.
Yeah.
Same deal. I
Working
was
a desk.
always nervous. I was like, don't punch the number in wrong.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it was, dude. I mean, I can't. As someone who had never had zero Hollywood experience, it was so exciting. It was really, really cool.
So you're working with these guys while you're at Tyler Perry, or you?
Yeah. So we were a group of assistants. So he had brought in LA assistants with LA experience.
I see. And then what launched you to Los Angeles?
So then I now felt comfortable because I had some relationships with people that could plug me in, and so my friend who was Tyler's primary assistant, Gary Osdahl.
I'm Facebook friends with Gary.
Yeah, that's
We've
great.
never even met. I don't even know why I'm friends with him, but he seems like a cool guy.
He's my friend. I mean, he's still my friend to this day. We still talk all the time.
Nice.
So he plugged me into the Friedman Recruitment Agency, which was at the time, and I still think it's probably still the case now, the easiest way to get jobs was to do temp work at different studios and production companies. And Friedman was one of the biggest temp agencies specifically for Hollywood and the entertainment industry. So he plugged me into Friedman. So there we go. So I had accomplished that, building a bridge to get me into Hollywood.
And for context, what does Gary do now?
Gary's a manager. He manages Martin Cove and oh my gosh, Martin Cove is John Kreese from Cobra Kai.
What?
And Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai.
Oh my gosh, what a cool client. That's like one of my favorite shows.
What is Zabka? The last name Zabka? Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai.
That's great.
He manages them. He manages one of the
So he's
the band
killing it.
members.
He's having fun.
Oh, Gary was going to crush it. I mean,
Nice.
Gary was crushing it. Tyler Perry, he was destined to crush it. So yes, he's been doing very well. So, anyways, I had finally, again, to kind of go back to for your viewers, students, I had successfully built that bridge to LA. I didn't just run out here not knowing anyone just to try and make it happen. Again, you can do that, but it's going to take a long time and could be very difficult. So now I got plugged in. So I get an interview at Friedman, they get my information, and then I start temping. And temping is just like any other temp place. They send you on a 2-week gig because an assistant is out sick for a couple weeks, or they are on vacation. So they need someone to fill in that desk. So they bring in a temp to sit for a couple of weeks. Could be a couple days, couple weeks, could be a month, right? They've got short term, they've got long term, whatever. So I temped, and one of those temp assignments was E1.
Okay.
And just how much relationships matter. While I was temping at E1, it just so happened that a guy who named Sam Horowitz, who had interviewed at Tyler Perry, he was flown out to interview with Tyler Perry to be Tyler's assistant.
Okay.
I met Sam there, and maybe we met for maybe 20, 25 minutes. It's like, oh, hey man, nice to meet you. Good luck. Best of the interview. It'd be cool to, whatnot, good luck. And here, a year and a half later, a year and a half later, I'm sitting down and I see Sam. I'm like, Sam? He's like, Tarkan, what's up, man? So that helped me, working with Sam and whatnot. I ended up being able to get a full-time job at E1.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say that Sam, it was just pure like Sam saying, oh yeah, just give him a job. I mean, I had to still do the work. I had to still interview and whatnot, but it certainly helped that Sam was there to say, yeah, I know Tarkan.
We want this guy. He does a good job.
Yeah. And, so
Right.
I started just, I was at E1 for a while, and then I started just doing different jobs in LA, different industry jobs. Ended up going into marketing.
Okay.
And
what did you learn anything? So when you say marketing, were you marketing for studio picks or indies?
So I was marketing for, it was studio. So let me clarify a little bit what that means. I was at Heaven Spot, which is owned by MNC Saatchi, and they do a lot of social media and focus on entertainment marketing. I just want to make sure I'm clear about all this. So with MNC Saatchi, I was working with Fox Home Entertainment, working on their studio catalog, doing social media digital marketing for all these old films like Die Hard and Predator, right? To keep people interested and invested in those films.
Yeah.
Via social media.
Right.
And then we also worked with FX, which did Fargo. So we were doing live tweets during the Fargo season 1, season 2. Whatnot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
super rad.
It's a good way to cut your teeth.
Oh, it was great. Yeah. Marketing. I mean, the business is built around marketing. All these tent poles, all these movies, it's all built around marketing. And it's important to understand that passion and craft is the heart of why I would argue most people are in this business. But bottom line, it's a business. And that's how the entire industry approaches it. That's it. And marketing, I mean, marketing is what drives, people, how they drive people to come to these movies by putting who's in it and whatnot, right? It's, yeah, we all love a good story, but it's how cool are the effects and what are the tie-ins and right? It's all these things that are marketing based to get people to go to the movie. So it's important that people understand that. You don't want to come to Hollywood just thinking that you're going to be a storyteller. You need to come to Hollywood being a business person. It's super important.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was my last gig, and then essentially what had happened was I had found that I had missed the indie side of producing, right?
Okay.
I had the opportunity to with my close friend Hank Braxton, we produced an indie film called Chemical Peel, which is an indie horror, and kind of going back to my combination of like those cool kind of like genre films that I liked as a kid, plus that indie stuff that I got into in college. It was a really tight kind of low budget horror thriller.
Okay.
And so we produced that, completely self-produced it independently.
Budget
Was I think less than 12 grand.
Wow.
We did it. We shot it all in his house.
How did you get the money?
Glendale. Self-finance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, self-finance. We shot everything in his house in Glendale with just friends. It was a tiny, tiny crew. It was like me, our camera guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we did everything ourselves. And ton of work, but super fulfilling. And we ended up selling the film. Sold the film to Grindstone, and it was distributed by Lionsgate.
Oh, wow.
So everyone's gonna go, "Oh my gosh, how'd you sell your film?" Blah blah blah. Again, relationships. So I'm working at E1. Above us is
While you made this film, you were working at E1.
I was working at E1.
That's an entirely separate conversation, but go on.
We were doing this on weekends.
Oh,
we were
God.
working at
Okay.
nights.
That's crazy.
Yeah, during winter holidays.
Wow.
So above us was an agency, a management agency that
Above you.
in the building we were in, the floor above us.
Got it.
I had our trailer. So Hank cut a trailer, and I said, okay. I walked upstairs, and I said, hey, we got a trailer. Just want to see if you guys would check it out. And they checked it out, and they thought it was pretty cool.
How much did you spend to cut a trailer?
0.
Oh, my God.
So
you guys were really crafty.
Well, so all the production credit goes to Hank. Hank is a
what was Hank doing for a living?
Hank was working in reality TV as a editor and post production supervisor. So he's a post production like brilliant.
He had everything dialed in.
Everything dialed in. He knew how to do everything. So imagine you have an entire production person in
An entire post house.
Post house and one guy. The only thing he wasn't super adept at sound. We did have to like get some people to do sound mixing. Yeah. But all the visual, all the
that's
editing,
so
everything,
cool.
Cut the trailer, everything.
Okay.
He's incredibly talented.
Yeah. Is he still in reality TV?
No. He's since moved on, and he directs indie features.
Oh, that's killer.
And he does some teaching now. He actually moved out of Hollywood. Still does indie features, but he directs them out of Colorado, where he lives now.
Separate conversation. We'll get to that too.
He's an Emmy award winning, he's super talented. So we spent 0 on the trailer. He just cut one. And so they liked the trailer. They thought it was cool. So Chris said, "Okay, I think I can try to do something." So he started kind of like shopping it around a little bit.
Who's Chris?
Chris is the agent, the agent that
worked above you.
That worked above us.
Got it.
Yeah. So we first went to major agency. The trailer got around to CAA, got around to William Morris. People watched it. This is what happens in Hollywood. They'll watch it, which means they'll pass it to their assistant to watch, and then Gersh. That's where we got a lot of interest.
Yeah.
By agents who passed the trailer on to their assistants who would watch it and say, "Oh, this looks kind of cool." And then, as is usual in Hollywood, they always say things are cool, and then months later, you haven't heard anything. Weeks later, right? Gersh, the assistant for last name Cohen, he's one of the bigger agents at Gersh. She watched it and was like, "Yeah, actually, like my boss likes this. Let's talk." So we would set meetings with them, and they gave us the runaround for weeks. Now, the problem with their runaround was they actually set up meetings with us, talked to us, told us they were going to rep it, help us out, and whatnot, and it ended up not going anywhere. So we were a little jaded at that point with the agency world, and so I took it to this boutique management company that was again on the floor upstairs. Also, it was down the hall from Gersh was another small agency, and Chris, who had done some stuff and was a really cool, genuine guy. He watched it like, okay, I like this, I dig it, and he actually shopped it around. He took it to Grindstone, and Grindstone acquired it. They bought it, they paid money for it, etc. So,
how exciting was that? It
was incredible.
Was it very validating?
Oh, absolutely. So we sold the first movie that we made. We sold it to a real company. We went through real channels, and we got actual distribution. Now, we didn't get theatrical distribution out of it, but we got we got a big home ent play, and it was awesome. I mean, that's what people want to do, right?
Exactly.
And it was profitable. Now, it was profitable off of the price that we had guaranteed, the acquisition price that was guaranteed. So I don't know when you want to go into this about like.
Let's do it now.
Okay, so
Okay.
Buyers, there's the distributors, right? I mean, this is core film school 101, 201 stuff, but there's the distributors. They're going to buy your movie so they can distribute it and exploit it. Exploiting means they're going to launch it different platforms, VOD, video on demand, DVD, right? All that, the different means of exploitation. They don't care what you made it for. They don't even ask. Doesn't matter. They're going to either offer you zero to whatever price that they're going to buy it for. And then on top of that, they're going to say, once we start platforming the movie, then contractually you could be guaranteed to points or percentages of revenue that comes in for the film, right?
Is this tricky contract work, or is
this is contract? It's all contract work. Yes. Now, tricky in the sense that they're not gonna try to deceive you on what it's going to be there. This is what you're going to get. Where it gets tricky is they take away there's costs. So this is where you hear all the classic stories of like creative Hollywood accounting. That comes from the distributors will suddenly assign all kinds of costs to money that comes in. Oh, we need to recoup costs for the trailer that we made. Oh, we need to recoup costs for going to the markets. Oh, we need to recoup costs for all the marketing costs is the big one. We needed to cost so much money.
Right. Dude, I just real quick aside, I had a I was in the midst of, we actually did do the shopping agreement with this production company, and my friend owned the company, and still the contract had like one of those bitch clauses where in this specific case it was, you'll pay 10% of our administrative costs, which made no sense.
Exactly.
So
all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure it's even worse fortunately, we were working with a larger company with Lionsgate and Grindstone, but at the really dirt indie level, I'm sure it gets grimy. But anyway, so they're going to offer you a price, and a lot of times, sometimes that price is zero. If you just made like in your backyard, you made a horror film, and you're able to get it to a distributor and say, yeah, we need something for our catalog. We're not going to give you any money up front. You'll get potentially back end money, right? Those deals actually can generate revenue. There is this misconception that if someone pays zero for your movie, you're never going to see a cent.
Yes.
It is possible to see money. In particular, streaming video on demand, which is like iTunes, right? You can get money from iTunes sale. There's companies like Gravitas, which is I don't want to, again, I have not done a deal with Gravitas, so I don't want to speak out of context here, but I have heard that they're known to be quite, they don't really pay much up front. A lot of times they won't pay anything, but you will get something. They do work in the filmmaker's interest in making sure there's transparency and knowing, what your sales are and making sure you get something from the back end. So people should understand that you can make revenue from those back end deals.
Right. Well, let's not talk in general terms. I think the takeaway that I want to get to is that you it's not like you struck lightning. You didn't sell Saw.
No.
And like have a fucking multi-million-dollar franchise.
Let me be very clear. We did what anybody watching this can do.
Exactly.
And it was talent. Like I believe we all brought something to the table. And if you have talented people and you actually make something that's solid, doesn't need to be brilliant, but that's a solid product. Remember, you are selling a product. If your product can hang with the rest of the quality product out there, you can get it sold.
Yeah,
you can get it sold.
And you're not going to get boned if you have a solid entertainment attorney. They'll make sure that you get some coin, right?
Correct. They'll do the best that they can, right? Okay. They will do the best they can. I mean, like, look, well, no, let me tell you, like, we got boned on international.
Okay.
So we live in a world, and those worlds have different territories and countries, right? And in the film world, a lot of times the U.S. buyers will make an offer just for North America. That's Canada might be a part of that, or it's just the U.S. But then you have the rest of the world, and in indie film, that's usually the bread and butter is the rest of the world, all these foreign territories. And what you do is you get a foreign sales agent to take your movie out to the foreign distributors and buyers, and to sell your movie in foreign territory. That is a very, very murky world. The foreign sales and sales agency world is filled with a lot of I don't want to say shady.
Okay.
But
I've seen it firsthand.
It's a lot more loose. Yeah. And it's a lot more wild westy, right? So
phone calls all hours of the day because you're in different territories.
And just they don't. Nobody shows you. Nobody communicates. You don't really get any data.
Yeah.
They do the same thing where they charge you a bunch of money for marketing because they got to take your films to different international markets, and it's hard. But foreign is where a lot of indie films will make their money.
Yes.
So, again, it is a misconception that movies don't make money.
So
the problem is that the filmmakers are at the very bottom of the totem pole and the receiving end of the pie, the structure.
Got it. So let me just cut off this interview right now. This has been part 1 of my interview with Tarkan Dospil. Tarkan and I are actually meeting up with some other people who also work in the industry to go check out a you tell them.
Yeah, we're going to see Tenet at the Paramount Drive-In,
which should be really fun. And what's even better is the friend we're meeting up with is going to be on a first date. So we cannot wait to crash that date and meet the woman. Anyway, thank you so much. Signing off.
And we're one day after we started, and we're going to start the vibe off right by watching another trailer that we haven't seen yet. Unfortunately, I wish we could watch Freaky again, because it's so interesting to see we might do that, but is there another one? Tar sounds kind of interesting. Is there another trailer?
What's Tar?
So Tar, in the murky depths of Los Angeles, world famous La Brea tar pits. It seems interesting. It's like somebody loved the script enough to make this film, and that's fascinating.
I think it could be kind of cheesy though.
Okay. Should we give it a shot, or should we try Freaky?
Let's try something else.
All right.
To be fair, I haven't seen the whole Freaky trailer.
Okay, let's do Freaky. I think a Vince Vaughn studio comeback is the most 2020 thing that's happened yet this year.
Good morning. Morning. That's me, Millie. Ordinary, boring Millie. I love your dress. I think I saw it at Discount Bonanza. Okay, so I was never the most popular.
Homecoming's this weekend. Booker is gonna be at the dance.
And boys never really noticed me. Honestly, if this was a horror movie, I'd be one of the first ones to get killed. Cue the creepy dude in the mask. Like I said. But actually, it turns out...
Where am I?
I didn't get killed.
Oh my god, why do I sound like that?
I woke up in the killer's body.
So horror body switch.
I think it's brilliant.
It is. So basically, it's like take teen movie tropes and horrify them.
Glory and our might.
You know?
And not only is that psycho wearing my body, he's killing it.
He's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Who knows how many of our friends he's gonna kill?
Are you sure this is safe? No.
Oh my god, it's a slaughterhouse.
I have like less than 6 hours to swap back, or I'm gonna be stuck in his body forever.
Hurry up, loser, I gotta take a dump.
I have to admit, it hasn't been all bad.
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to interrupt.
How's that feel? I'll make you wish your stupid face was never born. Oh my god, did you just pee yourself? Yeah! Whoa, what am I wearing?
I'm actually really liking this for you.
Oh my god, it's supposed to be a butcher!
Great, we're gonna get killed by Murder Barbie.
I can't wait to kill you.
Time to stop this asshole.
We're in this together.
I want my body back.
Come and get it.
Looks good. Like fun.
Do I look like the butcher? It's Millie.
He's crazy.
Okay, Booker, can you look at me, please?
Dry up, bitch.
Booker, help! Booker!
Will you shut up?
Booker!
All right, so I'm in only because I'm a sucker for movies like that are set in a high school setting.
Yeah.
Something about high school flicks, especially in the horror genre, are fun for me. And I
Yeah.
loved Happy Death Day to You. That was one of the most fun movies I had seen in a long time.
That was good.
Yeah.
I saw it.
So you're going to go see this? Are
I
you
will
a
go see
theater
it.
guy, or are you going to wait till it comes out on demand or
I want to see
streaming?
this in the drive-in movie theater,
Okay.
assuming I can actually get in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yesterday we left off. Excuse me. We left off talking about your distribution deal to what was ultimately Lionsgate. Is that
For
right?
Chemical Peel.
For Chemical Peel.
For the first indie film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a good it's a good bridge to, would you say, what you're doing right now with this latest development, or was there a film that happened after Chemical Peel before this latest film you're on?
No, so we did Chemical Peel, and then after Chemical Peel, I continued working, and then I eventually got to the point where after doing Chemical Peel and sort of reassessing what I was doing, I kind of realized that I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure I was 100% sold anymore on just trying to climb the corporate executive rank in the studio system. I was starting to miss more and more indie production and whatnot. So, long story short, I ended up decided to sort of start my own business venture, which I did, and started working for myself. And fortunately, that has sustained itself and has grown, and I've been able to free up my time, allowing me to get back involved in the indie producing and just working in indie film again. So Hank, who is the director of Chemical Peel, had linked up with a couple of producers for a company called Automatic Entertainment. And they specialize in sort of genre films that are like kind of sci-fi, action, horror, monster kind of movies, things like that. And so we did a film called Snake Outta Compton, which is
Fascinating.
Yeah. So
I never knew about this one.
yeah. So this was a spoof on the
Let's actually
rap
hold it. I think it's
plane.
yeah.
So Hank directed a film called Snake Outta Compton, which was this spoof on the 90s hip-hop gangster movies.
Right, of course. It was a spoof. It was
Straight Outta Compton.
Sharknado meets Straight Outta Compton.
Sharknado meets Straight Outta Compton.
I see.
Exactly. And that was a lot of fun, and I came on board as an actor in that one.
Okay.
And I had a lot of fun.
I bet that was a lot of fun.
Ton of fun. And so after that, the following year, Hank relocates to Colorado, where he's from, and he once again does another film for them called Dragon Soldiers. It's backtrack. So Snake Outta Compton was distributed also by Lionsgate and produced by Automatic. Hank directed it, and then
I have to stop you real quick because this is funny. So you offered to show me Dragon Soldiers.
Yes.
And I did not
And you
watch
turned
it.
it down.
Like a bad friend.
Yeah.
So just a little something about me. One of my friends is in the TV show Real Housewives of Dallas, and I will not watch a single episode because I don't want to see him in a different light than I already do.
Got it.
Separate from that, another one of my friends, or he's more of an acquaintance, show runs a CW show that I used to love. And
Which
I
one?
just quit watching it as soon as I found out he was on it because I didn't want to become a fanboy of his. And I'm not suggesting that Dragon Soldier would turn me into a fanboy of yours, but maybe I should just watch it. I don't know, but that's why.
I would say
never
you're
told
already
you
a
why.
fanboy
Now you
of
know.
mine, so I don't think it's a problem for you to watch.
Right on. Okay.
Okay, so anyways,
tell me.
So we did Dragon Soldiers, which was a blast. And Dragon Soldiers was sort of a throwback to like the 80s sci-fi action Predator and movies like that, creature features.
What just hit us with the log line just so we know what it is.
A dragon in a mountain town has to be stopped by a group of black ops former military guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
That's it. And it's as fun as that sounds.
So what was the wildest day of production? Did you do your own stunts, or what did this shoot look like?
Yeah, I mean, we did all our own stuff. The wildest. I mean, we had like an overnight that was, we were stuck in a. It's just like not a basin, but it was this kind of like we were supposed to look like a cave. It was just sort of this like massive hole in this rocky terrain that's by his house, and we did a full overnight there. We did a couple of overnights. It was pretty brutal, but it ended up looking awesome because it looks like they're in this like deep cave, and it was all just shot in this hole. But the way we shot it looked cool.
How many days did you shoot?
The whole thing?
Yeah.
3 weeks.
And you were a producer on it as well?
No. So Chemical Peel was the only film with Hank that I've produced so far. These other films I was in.
Okay.
And then we just recently, back in November, finished another one called Jurassic Hunt.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
You guys are making way more films than I thought. I thought you were doing one film a year. It sounds like you're doing.
Yeah, so we did 2 last year. We did Dragon Soldiers in the early part of last year, and then we did Jurassic Hunt in the later part.
Okay.
So if it wasn't for everything going on, the global and pandemic and whatnot, we would be in the midst of shooting another one, but because of that, we might have to push next year. But we try and do 1 to 2 a year at this point with this group Automatic.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, I decided I wanted to put myself in a position where I could work on films and have the time, because when we did Chemical Peel, I mean, you talk about grind. I mean, I was working a day job, shooting at night, only shooting on holidays, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't be able to do that. You can do that once or maybe twice, but that's not sustainable, right?
No, it's not. So
now that I run my own business, I have my time, I can go whenever and shoot. So that's pretty much where we're at now. And I'm now trying to get more involved in producing and executive producing and bringing financing to the table. And part of what you wanted to sort of talk about was, after the experiences that I've had in the indie level, I'm not afraid to bring money to projects.
Yeah.
Because it is possible to make money in film, but you have to know what you're doing. You have to be smart about it.
Right.
But it is possible to do it. There's so many horror stories, because unfortunately there are a lot of producers that prey on money. Like that is a very real thing. However, the other side of the coin is that it's still a business that makes revenue and people make money at it.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's. I try if I sniff out somebody who I feel is up to either no good in the industry or they work on this sorts of anyway. I don't even want to talk about those people. Who cares? You're a guy who's found a way to make money in the biz, and the films you do make are profitable.
Yes.
So what kind of distribution companies are you selling it to? And what has their plan of attack been? Where have they been putting your films to get eyeballs on them?
Okay, so the most strategic thing you can do if you're a filmmaker is keep your movies under $100,000.
And why would you suggest that?
Because remember I said earlier that when you're not the sales agent for foreign sales, you're kind of relying on other foreign sales agents, and especially when you've never done a film, you don't have experience, you don't have relationships, it's kind of murky. So what you're banking on is your domestic sale, okay? So let's say you produce something and it's good enough, it can hang with the rest of the indie content. You're going to want to clear your budget and then some profit off of your domestic sale, right? Hopefully, the dream scenario is that you get a Netflix or someone that comes along and takes up global rights, which means they take everything, one-shot deal, and you get a little bit more, right? But under $100,000, you can safely go to a Grindstone, for example, and you can clear 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 grand in a sale.
Wow.
Right? That's possible.
Cool. Yeah. Especially if you've only been shooting for 3 weeks. How long did editing take on those 3-week shoots?
Editing takes a little bit longer. The shoot is 3 weeks,
Hank
but then
edits, right?
Hank edited.
That's so impressive. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, which leads me to the next point, which is you need to find a group. Either be the guy yourself that's doing all the post production,
correct,
or find a group of people that are willing to do that and do that at reasonable rate.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to work for free, obviously.
Well, of course not. But all of you are in it to win it, and does everyone share equity or?
So I can't. Well,
okay,
I can't go into specifics of the deals, but in this situation of Dragon Soldiers, people did have back end points and whatnot.
It's everyone's on the same page. It's not like you're taking advantage of people. All of you are in it to win it.
No, so the thing is with Chemical Peel, nobody was paid, but that was a labor of love. And I think for most filmmakers, their very, 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 very first project is often a labor for love.
Of course.
You shot a project.
Yeah.
And I mean, while it was a labor of love for you, and you weren't probably making a ton of money off of it.
Right, I wasn't.
Right?
But it was definitely a labor.
It was a labor of love,
Yeah.
and you ensured that you did hire some professionals, and you had to pay them and whatnot. So,
yeah.
So unless everybody is in the labor of love position,
we all do what we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to pay people. So, but under $100,000 is like a safe zone.
Yeah.
Right. The cheaper the better. I mean, that's just their bottom line, right? Like the cheaper you can make the movie, then there's just more upside. It's
Right.
simple. But again, the reason that 100,000 is that kind of magic number is because once you cross that, it gets harder and harder to be able to bank on North America giving you a sweet deal.
Okay.
Because I mean, typically, $200,000 acquisition prices.
Right.
Those are movies that have like talent in them. You have like names, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're an indie filmmaker with little to no money, you're not casting any names in your project unless you just happen to be friends with Sylvester Stallone or something, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he gives you a favor, but you're not going to have any names in your movie, so you want to keep it cheap. Now, the cool thing about someone like, well, in this case, like Automatic Entertainment is they produce movies, but then they are sales agents. Like, that's their job. They're sales agents. So they then take their movies that they've produced and they go
Yeah.
out and sell them.
Sales agent takes 10% typically. Is that right?
More than that, 20%.
20%.
Mm-hmm.
Documentary is different. Yeah. Based on my little
Documentaries,
experience.
I think there's less money involved in
Yeah.
documentaries, though, right?
And these agents get licensed by the states to do what they do, and you have to utilize the sales agent. You can't skip that corner. You can't cut that corner and sell your film without the sales agent. It's part of the equation. From
No.
my
You could, if you take a movie to a festival and Steven saw, or somebody studio sees it, they'll buy it. They'll just.
Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe I got some misinformation, but that's why we're doing this podcast.
No, I
to
mean,
get the correct
but
information out.
the likelihood that you're going to sell a movie without any kind of agent or broker is is almost zero.
Yeah.
But it's not legally required.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, if you can, again, we're assuming this is a lot of first time filmmakers, people just starting out.
Right.
You're probably not going to have a foreign sales agent in your team. That
Well-
said, if you can get one,
Yeah.
there's so you're gonna make most of your
You can get
money.
one. You can do it. It's not hard, especially if you're working your first gig in LA now. You probably know enough people from enough people, 2 or 3 degrees of separation, to where you can make it happen for yourself if your project is right for it.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Right. And again, the challenge is that the foreign sales world is very murky, especially for newcomers that don't know anything. You're kind of you need them. They don't really need you, right? So I always say your North American deal, that's where you're going to make your cash. On your subsequent films, when you make more films and you start learning the sales process, and then you can, start, I guess, working with sales agents to ensure that you're seeing more cash from the foreign side. But there's a lot of money in foreign territories. That is the model. The model is, okay, I'm going to make, and the model scales. If the model is indie film that's $10,000, okay, great. I know that we can make X amount from North America, and then I know in the various territories we can make another however many $1,000, and we can walk away with $100,000 in revenue, and
And that
30, 40
information isn't online. It's not in a book.
not
this
online or
is
in
based
a
on you
book.
meeting people in the industry and
this
extracting this information.
Right. So the sales agents have tons of power in the indie world.
Okay.
They have a lot of power because they know all the numbers. They know what distributors overseas want.
What is a number that you could share that would surprise people based on what you've been exposed to? In terms of what indie films are selling for, or what they're profiting, or just any of that. What's like a golden nugget of like a secret?
Well, I can tell you that movies that you see that cost like $1 million.
Yeah.
Most of them aren't getting bought. Most of them are getting bought for like $100,000.
Wow.
50,
So they're losing all that?
Well, no, so again, there's the minimum. When I say bought for $100,000, that's the minimum guaranteed the cash they're going to give you up front. Okay. After that, there's foreign. There's what all the revenue that starts coming in, right?
Yeah.
There's all that. But here's what we're going to pay you up front for the movie, and before we release it, and then all that. Yeah, I mean, they're $1 million movies will get bought for like $100,000.
So I interned on this film in Dallas with Faye Dunaway and Robert Loggia before he passed, and Merv Griffin was attached to it, I think, or maybe they weren't. I don't know. Maybe somebody from Merv Griffin was an EP on it. Who knows? And this $2 million feature, I don't think it got traditional distribution. I think what ended up happening is they got like DVDs in Best Buy, and that was the extent of it, and nobody probably even bought it.
Yeah.
And
usually those are like, a company will say, oh yeah, they're like baskets, so they'll say, okay, we'll take your movie, and then they take it as part of a basket of other films, and they toss it in this basket, then they sell the basket to Walmart, whatever, and if it makes some money, it makes some money. If it doesn't,
so they probably lost $2 million, right?
Well, so a couple of things to what you're saying. First of all, most new filmmakers way overspend, especially ones that have some money. So if a brand new green person,
I have to cut you off. So what I'm sort of skating around here is I've seen examples like that where people have overspent. And what I noticed with you in the films you're a part of is that you guys know how to do it in a smart way that's efficient and just quick, and you'll cut locations where you can, and you'll just get it done, and it'll sell, and it'll make a profit.
So in other words, we're cheap. Yes.
Yeah, which is admirable.
No. So yes. Not to insult any of the production I've been on, but you have to be very, very cost aware in the marketplace if you want to ensure that you're going to be financially successful. I mean, honestly, I think you should have that approach with any business. That's just, you got to be financially responsible, fiscally responsible.
Is that a Tarkan trait that is inherent in you, or is that something you picked up on Tyler Perry?
No, I would say that. I mean, me as a person, I'm generally a fairly thrifty person. I'm not going to call myself cheap, but I mean, I'm fairly fiscally responsible and I'm financially aware. But as far as my experience in film, I always saw that. I always assumed when I was watching indie films and learning about indie films that the less you spend, the better. You can do a lot with very little, because I didn't have access to a lot of money. So my head was like, okay, well, I've got this apartment and these chairs and tables and a camera. What can we do with that? What can we do that's cool? So I've always just come from a position of, I don't have a lot of money to make movies, but I want to make movies. So that's it. It wasn't I don't want to spend money because I'm a producer that doesn't like to spend money. It's that I didn't have a lot of money to spend on movies. And typically the productions I've been on don't have tons and tons of just infinite money to spend. So yeah, that's been my experience. And so I have now cultivated sort of this perspective of keep the costs as low as possible, because that's how you protect your investment, right? Because one day I'm going to bring, I have the ability to bring money to productions, and I'm going to bring money to productions, and I'm going to want to ensure that the money that I bring is protected and safe. Right. And I do know that movies can make money. So I have no problem bringing money to productions as long as I trust the people that are using the money, and I trust the production, and I believe in what we're making and that it's going to be a good business.
So which of the movies that you and your little squad that's a shit way to put it, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And again, it's not just you and some producers. It's a pretty impressive squad of dudes. Like you have, and women, you have someone on your team who either came from or still works for a distribution company in film. Mm-hmm. So you assembled a team based on people who know their shit, which is impressive, and how everyone should do it if they can.
Right.
So anyway, what's the one film that you guys did that's made the most money and that all of you were sort of like really impressed with and maybe caught off guard about?
Unfortunately, I don't have the ones that we did with Automatic Entertainment. I don't have visibility into those numbers.
Right.
I know but I can. So what I could say is that they've all they've all made money.
Yeah.
Now, which one's done more? I don't know.
Okay.
But they haven't lost money.
Can we talk about visibility? And what is the deal? So is it the distributor that does or doesn't give the filmmakers visibility, or what are the legal
Yeah, so
frameworks?
it's distributors and the sales agents, right, or producers. So whoever sells the film to the distributors, they're going to get the reports back from the distributors of what the movie made. But like an actor or director, they're hired guns. They're not obligated to give those people any information.
So if a director has back end on the project, will they get visibility or no?
Only if that's written into their contract.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's possible that because they have a percentage of back end, they may have some access to numbers, but to be honest, I'm not 100% clear on that, how that works. But they can't just willy-nilly request all reporting.
Got it.
No, not to my knowledge. That might be wrong, but as far as I know, no. But I think I know where you're getting with this. Is like, oh, have any of these movies done like it's like, holy crap, they're doing gangbuster numbers? Not really, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
They've made money. They haven't. None of them have been like massive, done crazy numbers, but they've made good, profitable. They're profitable, and they made good numbers for everybody involved. That was going to get paid from the movies, like the producers and whatnot. Again, when you're a director or an actor or anybody in production, you're kind of at the bottom of the totem pole, so you're going to see the money last.
And on this newest film that you are presently developing with the same team of gentlemen and women, where are you in the development process?
So we have the one that I'm directly involved in development. We're still in the outline treatment phase.
Have you cracked the synopsis?
Yeah.
And do you know like the log line?
I don't have not that I can give or anything.
Right.
No.
So it's all under lock and key.
It's under lock and key. But we have an outline and whatnot, and then we'll probably take a crack at a script. We'll start next couple weeks. I'm assuming 1 to 2 weeks.
How excited are you about the story in contrast to the other films you've done?
Oh, I think it's cool. Yeah, I'm probably most excited about this concept.
Do you feel like it's more sellable than the other projects you've done, or no?
I think it's equally as sellable. If anything, it's more high concept.
Okay.
Or more complex. So to be honest with you, is it more sellable? I don't know. You got to remember, I mean, stuff that what filmmakers often think is sellable and what is actually sellable are often two very different things. For example, monster movies like Sharknado, or just like a movie with a dinosaur chasing a bunch of people they have to fight or whatever. That's super sellable.
Yeah.
Super sellable. A cerebral, indie, high concept film with a really interesting idea may or may not be sellable because it's too weird, or it's too, right? It's like comfort food. The McDonald's projects that are like the McDonald's of indie films.
Yes.
That's sellable. That's just, people will consume it. So I actually don't know if it's more sellable. I think for me, it's more compelling. It's a little more interesting. But is it more sellable? Not sure. We'll see.
Can you give us one hint of what it might be about? Just like a riddle?
When you have to face yourself, not just spiritually, but literally.
Oh my gosh. That's such a riddle.
That's all I can say. I really can't talk anymore about it.
Fair enough. So, in a nutshell, Tarkan Dospil has built this interesting life for himself. He cut his feet in the business working for Tyler Perry Studios, followed by E1 in Los Angeles, saw what it was, decided to build his own sort of empire outside of the business.
Hardly an empire, but I appreciate you framing it like that.
An e-commerce business.
Yeah.
Outside of the film industry directly, in order to produce, act in, and eventually invest in the movies he pleases.
Yeah, so, I mean, I want to just make sure that we cover a couple other, like, tricks or things. So, like, Tyler Perry.
Okay.
The things you talked about, I just want to touch on that again.
Yeah.
You mentioned he owns everything. That's absolutely correct. He puts himself in movies because then he gets... the more and more you embed yourself in the revenue stream, the better you're going to be, right? So keeping it low cost, not overspending, right? Like you said, act in movies because that's a person you don't have to pay. Write the movie because that's another person you have to, right? You got to try and keep your team, bring a group of talented people, try and streamline jobs and have people do multiple things, right? All those things are going to help you be more successful.
Yeah.
And don't, the days of I'm going to write a great script and try and just get that script to land on, Ron Howard's desk or Brian Grazer's, we just don't live in those days anymore. You got iPhones and smartphones. You can go shoot a movie right now out in your garage, out in the parking lot. You can shoot a short form content. You can put stuff on YouTube. You can do there's so many ways that you can get started with your content and make a movie that, that those traditional means are kind of they're just antiquated at this point.
I'd say it's even, in a shocking twist, I feel like it's even more wild, wild west with the addition of YouTube and all that, because people can literally, you'll see YouTube stars, for all you know, prior to YouTube's existence, those could have been people that tried to get scripts on Ron Howard's desk.
Yeah.
But they were just born in a different time. And now they have access to new and fresh and different opportunities. So they are stacking dollars and putting themselves in the position to be able to do whatever they want. I think that's super empowering. Nobody could have told me that when I was in film school, though. I would have been like, I was way too arrogant and pompous for that.
Right.
I would have been like, excuse me, no, I'm going to be a studio producer and nothing's stepping in my way.
Yep.
But yeah, take it from us or don't. That's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And what else outside of the Tyler Perry point?
Yeah. So, the other points I mentioned, don't let your ego get involved. Don't overspend.
Which is impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. But you really you have to.
Oh, in terms of spending and budgets, you're saying don't let
spending budgets. The movie you make, just understand that all these movies that are like, people all talk about Paranormal Activity, like these movies that are examples of, when you have limited resources and just getting creative, it's just true. Just make stuff, make something, just shoot something, make it, and do the best that you can with it. And movies do make money. It is a business. Everyone isn't just losing money. New producers often lose money for the two main reasons that I've seen or heard is they overspend on their movie because they don't know what they're doing. And that's an ego thing. That's, again, the ego, because you just want to blow money because you just have this vision of this production. Don't overspend your money. It's just not wise. And then the other reason is they just put money into things without any kind of due diligence or getting information or standing their ground.
What is an example? Because all this sounds pretty big.
Well, okay, so for example, if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, Adam, I'm a producer. I can make a movie and have it make $5-10 million. I'm just going to need $1 million." Instead of getting excited about that and kind of going down that rabbit hole, you need to vet that person. What have they sold? What have they done?
Totally,
right?
I agree.
Well, you agree with that, and I would agree with that, but then you don't realize how many people just are like, oh, cool, and they just throw money at projects. They actually don't have a lot of experience. They don't know what they're doing.
Where are filmmakers and producers finding these blind investors?
They are out there.
I didn't even know they were out there.
I can't name names, but I know multiple producers that have angel investors that I don't think they've ever made them any money. But they just love making movies, and they're okay as a hobby. They're okay just dumping $300,000 because they just want to make a movie. If it makes money, they don't care. That's how. I mean, there are a lot of indie film producers that get money like that. I'm not of that. I'm not cut from that cloth. To me, it's a business, and if I can show that it's profitable, I treat it like a business. That's in my mind is that's just how I do it.
Yeah.
I don't look for just willy-nilly passion money, we say, or glamour money. So those people just want to just make movies for fun.
The last observation I want to make is I have a lot of industry friends who don't really do anything on weekends outside of watching movies and stuff like that, and it feels a bit of a one-dimensional existence to me. As soon as you were introduced into my life through a mutual friend, I noticed that you had a much more adventure-packed life, that you would seldom stay in Los Angeles on a weekend. You'd always be leaving the city and going on adventures. And and cool things like that. So will you just tell me when you got that taste for adventure, and also how that sets you apart from other friends of yours in the industry, and like, do you feel like their lives are whatever? You get what I'm trying to
I can
get
talk
at.
about that. I mean, I do have the luxury, and I'm blessed and fortunate that now that I have my own business, I have the free time to do all these kinds of things.
And the finances.
Yes, and I'm financially able to do that for myself.
So you could be in South America one month, and you could be in Austria the other month.
could,
like,
and-
that's very Tarkan.
That's all right, and I recognize though that not a lot of people can't do that, right? So what I would say is the average person who's working and trying to do films, I think that there is a toxic, there's this toxic idea that you need to be absorbed with your film and TV career, and it needs to be on your mind 24/7. And if you're not constantly just working on it and grinding it, someone else is gonna get ahead of you. And
I was guilty of that for several years.
Oh yeah, no, early on I was a little guilty of that too, and it's very easy to get caught up in that, But
And
that's
what was your wake up call?
I don't know, just stepping back and observing and just looking how things worked and just my life in general, and realizing that I have other things that I enjoy besides just movies and making movies, right? I mean, that was a big part of it. When I went into the military, there was a lot of that was me stepping away from the arts and media and all of that, because I was so absorbed in that so much in my youth, and just realizing that you need to have some semblance of balance. I mean, you can still pursue your film career. Now, when you're working on a film, it's game time like all the time. Like, there's very little downtime, but that's 3 weeks to a month of your life, or maybe a couple months, right? But when you're not actively working on a project that you're going to be shooting or whatever, go travel and go see stuff and take weekend trips, right? Like I said, maybe you can't just up and go to another country, but take a weekend trip.
What did you do this morning, just as an example?
This morning, we went to Palos Ranchos Verdes.
Nice. How was that?
That was pretty epic, I have to say. Unfortunately, it's very like foggy and cloudy and smoky right now over LA, but if it hadn't, we saw a view that is could have been one of the best that I've seen in LA so far. I can't remember what the actual hike we went on. We did like a 3-hour hike, and no, it's amazing. And I try and take local trips like that, as many weekends as I can.
I started scaling out. I did the Runyon Canyon thing like so many others my first years in LA, and then I quickly told myself, let's make it a goal to never do Runyon again. There are several other hikes in LA, so I started focusing on the Palisades, and then sort of branched out from there. And now I'll end up driving a couple of hours out of LA as well. And
and here's another point:
just so much more beautiful.
Filmmakers want to be artists, right?
Yeah.
And what is an artist but someone who has a wide breadth of experience? I mean, that's what, in my opinion, an artist is: someone who pulls from many, many different experiences. So if you're an artist and you're just cooped up in your room writing 24/7, and then going to your desk job at CAA or wherever you are, and then like you can only do that. So you need to have other experiences to just expand your life experiences and where you pull from for your art. Like, that is going to make you a better artist.
Could you have survived in the end? Like, had you stayed in Los Angeles and forced yourself to continue in the industry even past E1, would you feel like you'd still be with E1, or what do you feel like you'd be doing today?
I would probably still be in digital marketing. I found that I really enjoyed marketing.
For film and TV.
For film and TV. Yeah, I would still be in the industry.
Got it.
100%.
What were some shows and movies that you digitally marketed, just for context?
I worked on Fargo, worked on American Horror Story.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, we were working with Fox Home Entertainment on all their old home entertainment, the catalog, like Die Hard and Predator and whatnot.
Great.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, no, I'd probably be with with a marketing agency, or I'd be at a studio or production company that had in their marketing department. Marketing was pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's creative, and and then I would still be trying to work on indie films.
Yeah, I would say, just hearing that from you, I would say that all these companies are structured so efficient's not the right word, but to ensure that efficiency comes out of it, the hours are just a lot longer. They are.
Yeah.
And for me, whenever I was working on a show, there's no way I could do a side project. I tried it, actually. I worked on a show in post, which the hours are more manageable. And I tried to, I was in 2 separate scripted TV workshops outside of my full-time job. And I did this dumb thing. I thought I was Superman or something, where basically I would finish my job and then I would walk to my car at 7 p.m. like the other producers on the show. And then they would leave and I would walk back into the office and start writing on doing my homework for these scripted workshops. And I had a panic attack a week into trying that. And like the experiment was trying to see how little sleep I really needed. And it was probably the dumbest thing I've ever done.
But let me ask you this: if you were working on a film, an indie film with people that you were close to or friends, and you were excited about it, you think you would have done that and been able to pull it off?
Well, no, because when I'm working on an indie film, everyone's in it together. The hours are longer, and it's a family, and all of you have each other's backs. So it's impossible for anyone to like skate around undetected.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So it would have been easy. So you would have been able to do that easier.
I would have been so in love with what I was doing,
Right.
I wouldn't have sought workshops and scripted television
Right.
outside of it.
Right. So
Because indie film is just fun.
Right. So I guess my point is that you'll find that there are going to be times where you are going to be grinding and just you do need to put in the hours and the work. I mean, I worked a full-time job, and while we were shooting Chemical Peel, we did it on our winter break.
That's right. I keep forgetting that.
Right. So, but I'm just saying that you shouldn't try and maintain that for years and years, where all you're doing is just laser. You're just gonna. I don't want to say you're gonna.
I
kind of
burned
waste
out.
your life.
Yeah,
you're burnt out, and you're gonna waste your life.
And you have
There is
no
more to
balance.
life. There is more to life.
Agreed. Well, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, man.
Meant a lot, and I'm excited about the setup, and I'm excited that you were on the show.
Likewise, dude.
Cheers.
Thanks, man.